Call to order the Finance Committee meeting on March the 5th, 2018. Our first item on the agenda will be a presentation by Deputy Mayor Gully.
You'll join me downstairs, Chris. You'll come join us up here. All right. Turn around for the cameras. See, we got cameras. Everybody gets to see you and all that sort of stuff. So, Carissa Wallace. Carissa began working for the city in December of 2014, 4 years ago.
Almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years. Born and raised in Muskogee, Carissa began her working career at Drug Warehouse as a floor supervisor. With her supervisory experience, Carissa then went into banking and worked at the Bank of Oklahoma and then to Bank First. Carissa now works as the court clerk office administrator, where she works juvenile dockets, prepares trial dockets, and processes warrants. Carissa also fills in for the court clerk in her absence. Quite a lot of duties, isn't it?
Well, a lot.
Carissa was nominated because she's always pleasant to work with and is extremely proficient. Carissa knows exactly where to go to get information that is requested. She goes above and beyond on a daily basis. Working with the city attorney's office. Roy? Do you have to work with Roy?
You.
I'm so sorry. City Attorney's Office, the community service crews provide her with the hours worked spreadsheet each Thursday, and Carissa records all hours worked, answers defendants' questions, and keeps immaculate records. Carissa also created a community service spreadsheet for record service hours. Carissa always provides information when requested and is extremely deserving of being a City Muskogee Employee of the Month award winner. Congratulations to our March 2018 Employee of the Month. Now I say that, Mr. Tucker, sound like you work with this young lady quite a bit.
I do.
And would you like to say something?
Well, yes, I will say that one of the challenges is always when you need information from the court clerk's office, you need it immediately, and you can always rely on Carissa to not only answer the phone and always be at her desk, but to give you quick and accurate information in always a pleasant attitude, which is extremely appreciated because sometimes our office tends to be very demanding. So I do appreciate that very much.
That is awesome coming from Mr. Tucker because he can be very mean. Presentation. Who's got the cameras and stuff? Gary?
I will take one.
That's what I'm thinking. Can't hold my breath. I don't know if you want to say anything. Nope. Each one of the council people would love to shake your hand and thank you for your work.
Good job. Good to see you. Carissa took care of me at the bank. I suspect if she's doing half the job here she did there, she's doing great.
Thank you so much. Let's get that kind of praise, Roy. I don't get it.
This time we return to the agenda business. Item number 1, please.
Consider approval of Finance Committee minutes of February 20th, 2018.
After review of the minutes, are there any corrections or additions?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Patrick Cale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Item number 1 passed. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments February the 15th, 2018 through February the 28th, 2018.
Do we have a report from the purchasing committee?
Well, the purchasing committee was me today.
All right.
We did not have a quorum, but I did review the report of claims with the city treasurer, and I move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the claims. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Patrick Cale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
All right. Item number 2 passed. Item number 3.
Consider approval of a contract with Midwest Employers for excess workers' compensation insurance in the amount of $85,101 or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, it's that time of year again where we have to renew our policy for excess workers' compensation coverage. As you know, we are self-insured for workers' compensation up to a certain amount. Anything beyond that, we have a policy of reinsurance to reimburse us for any claims that exceed about $500,000. So we've asked Jeff Morrison with Alliance Benefit Group to present the bids. As our third-party administrator for workers' compensation, Jeff and his group have been kind enough to solicit bids on this for us. And so at this time, I'll turn the floor over to you, Jeff, to go over the bids.
Thank you. Good evening. We do have, we obtained several bids. The bid that did come in was with a different carrier than we were with now. It was about just a little under $4,000 less. There was one other bid that was substantially less, but that had a higher self-insured retention, or what you might think of as a deductible for fire and police. And so the recommendation was to go with the Midwest Employers option 3 on that handout that you have.
And one of the things I would like to point out is that one of the, or I think, Jeff, you told me one of the carriers who you spoke with attributed the reduction in premium to our much better experience in our workers' compensation claims this year.
Yes, there was, that's a credit to the city attorney's office and all those involved with the workers' compensation. There's been, the claims have dramatically decreased. Severity and frequency, and that has a direct impact on the premiums. In fact, this was the first year in quite a while the carriers actually tried to offer a 2-year term, which is pretty rare because they only do that for those that are well-performing organizations. But there were some reasons, but we couldn't do that for the city. But it was a compliment to the city that they made that offer. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those for you.
Move for approval.
Well, I've got a question, if I could, please. And I'm sure you looked at everything. When it comes to insurance, to an extent, if I don't feel like I've been taken advantage of or have been abused for years, and I know our team's looking at this year to year closely. But there's benefits to staying with an insurer for a little bit of a ride anyway. Did you consider things like how we've been treated and how fast and prudent they react, and was a decision made, well, they haven't been all that good, so let's take a look at these guys that are just a little less, or how did you kind of come to that decision?
Yeah, I don't know that it was necessarily any performance issues. The city of Muskogee actually was insured with Midwest Employers before. It's kind of been back and forth between Midwest Employers and Safety National. They're the two bigger competitors, and so they're always fighting for that business. And so, I certainly wouldn't have any objections to staying there if it really came down to some cost considerations, I think.
Well, it sounds to me like these two folks are pretty straight-up players, and we've been happy with them.
They are.
And from year to year, if one beats the other one out, one beats the other one out.
Yeah.
Is that what it sounds like?
Yes, and I would say if it was probably less than the $4,000, for $1,000, $2,000, you might want to stay. I've had companies do that.
That's in general, but if these two companies have been a pleasure to deal with,
Sure.
and they're reputable companies that can handle our claims, if it's 1 year these guys take it, the next year these guys take it, that's fair enough with me.
Sure, okay.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
Thank you, Jeff.
I don't think our loss prevention really shows what's really happening out in our field too with our safety program. I think the real benefits from our safety program will come in the next 5 years, and we'll see a bigger loss take place. Usually, when you have a safety program, you won't see the benefits for that for at least a 5-year time period. So I think we're already reaping the benefits from it already in the short term. But I think, in 3 to 5 years, we'll see more benefits for it. So I'm really pleased with what we're seeing short term, but long term, I think we'll see bigger benefits from it.
And we'll continue to make yearly reports on our safety plan implementation as well.
But it's great to see short-term benefits, but I think the real long-term benefits are still to come.
And I'm proud with the way staff has done a good job in securing good quality, fair insurance rates with not only workers' comp but health insurance and such. We've really knuckled down and done a good job, I think, and have saved a little bit of money.
All right, if there's no other discussion, roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Item number 3 passed. Item number 4, please.
Consider approval of a contract with Cowan Group Engineering for the design of Water System Project A, tank mixing, and Project B, water distribution improvements, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and committee. As you know, last year we started with the sewer side of the OWRB loan. We were approved for a total of $43 million, and we put $27 million into the sewer side, and that project is well underway as far as design, and we have lift stations under construction now. On the water side, we did a water model that was approved, and that was to give us a better understanding of how we're going to proceed with what water projects we need. And we're very pleased with results of that model, and what we've come up with is a list of projects. We've met with DEQ and the OWRB, and they've looked at what we're looking at doing. They're pleased with it. And one nuance that's different with the sewer side and the water side is the water side wants us to have a project ready to go when we go to get the first loan money of the $18 million. So this sets out a contract with Cowan Group to get that first small project going. And also there's one major project, which is a 30-inch water line that replaces the 224s coming into town, and that's about half of the loan, and that's the main project we need to get going once we get the loan money. So we've included that as part of this engineering contract, and all of this money will be reimbursable through the OWRB loan. So Tim Ward with Cowan Group is going to give a presentation on the model and what we're proposing here.
Well, I noticed the clock never started, so I'm assuming I have all the time in the world, right? Thank you very much. Greg stole part of my thunder there. I had all those notes down as to what we've done before, but is this on? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. As we talked about the hydraulic analysis, we found out that, we needed to replace those two 24-inch lines. And so during the model, we looked at 3 different scenarios. The first scenario was the one that we indicated in the first report that we did back in 2016. The idea behind that line replacement was basically we have 2 parallel lines. We need another line to parallel it and replace those 2 lines, period. It didn't look at water quality. It didn't really look at water pressure. It basically was going to give you exactly what you had today that you had before, just with a different alignment. But that would have allowed to take out those 2 lines. So that was the first one we looked at. The second one we looked at was because we have so much water capacity on the on the east side of town, we started looking more on the west side of town. And so this scenario actually takes the 30-inch water line from where the 42-inch ends, and we follow along the bicycle trail. And that's the 30-inch line that we're talking about here. We also have other lines that we're going to have to do in the area where the 24-inch lines are at, because there's several connections to those 24-inch lines that will still need to be served. The third scenario we looked at was just going north of the town, but that really didn't do us a lot of good. It's a longer line. We wouldn't really see any benefit with this line other than it just being a transmission line. So after looking at all 3 scenarios, and plus the added extra part of this project was to put in the mixing and aeration that Greg talked about, and also reconnecting the services to the customers on the 24-inch line. And that's going to require all of those line extensions, as you see right there. So when we looked at all three scenarios, we kind of came together with a matrix and finally found out that scenario 2B would actually cost around $9,200,000 when you compare it to the other three projects. Each one of those used the same cost for the 30-inch line, the same cost for the 12-inch. So we felt like they were all on an equal playing field. I'm sorry, I have a cold, so I'm a little congested here. As you can tell, scenario 2B gave us better on pressure, better on water age, better on the cost estimate, and overall the total of 9 points. So it bested all the other two projects in every category. And so that was the proposal that we gave to you, and this proposal today is to use that scenario 2B.
Which one of these scenarios had the 24-inch line north of town?
That was scenario 2C. And so after looking at that, we came up with a proposal for the council. And as Greg talked about, in order to get money from the Water Resources Board, we have to have a project underway. So we decided to split those projects for the tank mixing and aeration as the first project, and then do the 30-inch as the second project. That'll allow us to get to the board within the next 2 or 3 months.
Could you elaborate on the two tanks, two water towers? And
right now, those two tanks, the southwest tank is getting almost no turnover in it right now. So this new line will actually help with that, but also to increase mixing in that tank, we're also going to be putting tank mixers in there and also aeration. So that'll help out with the THMs that you guys are having problems with in that southwest area.
And that's one on Radio Hill?
Yes.
Okay.
And with that, we're just not pulling a lot of water out of that. So it really doesn't matter. The key thing that we're doing there is aerating it and mixing it. That's really the key benefit of
Right.
what we're doing to the water of this part of town.
If you look at scenario 2B, that's where we're helping out a lot, because that's going diagonal through town, and it's actually pushing water down to your southwest tank. Before, most of your water was going to your north tank.
Mm-hmm.
The southwest tank was getting what it could get. It wasn't always filling because the hydraulics were not there to fill that tank.
Oh.
So this will actually help push the water as fast as we can down to that area. And it's hard to tell on this one, but this takes it all the way down to here, and then this line takes it to that one tank, and this takes it to the southwest tank. So it actually changes the pressure gradient in the system,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll actually add more pressure to that southwest side, which will then allow the water to, we went from 10 to 12 days of residence time in that tower before the model to about 2 to 3 days after. 2 to 3 days is not great,
But
it's a significant
12 days is
change.
terrible.
Yeah. But the 10 to 12 was really causing problems, because what was happening is you were just pushing up against the wall.
Okay.
That water would stay in that tank, but you didn't have enough pressure to push any more water in there. So your THM problems were occurring on the outside of that tank. It may not have been the THMs in the tank that you were seeing, but you were seeing a lot of THMs in and around that
Just
area.
stagnant water.
Just static water. And what we'd like in the future, we would love to see the water treatment plant maybe turn off the pumps at night, and that'll allow that tank to drain and maybe even possibly feed the paper mill. Just another way of trying to help reduce the time in that tank.
One observation, and I like your plan and how you guys have approached it. And a 30-inch line's better than a 24. And the head of steam behind it's obviously better as well. I'm just curious. It seems to me that a 24-inch line up north, the cost to put that line in would be much, much less than the cost involved to put in this 30-inch line in the area that we're putting it in.
One of the problems with the north line is it's significantly longer, and so that was a problem with comparing it to the two The north line.
So there was more material.
More material. More material, more right-of-way, more easement, acquisition, just a lot of things that were involved in that.
Well, everything that you guys have done to try to remedy the water quality problem in the southwest sector is fabulous. Just fabulous.
Appreciate it.
You guys are geniuses.
What are we looking on time frame?
Sorry, as the overall project,
Yep.
we're looking
I'm
at,
sorry, I thought you were talking about my talk. I don't know, it's still 5 minutes. I was told specifically that Mr. Miller would not want me to be here longer than 5 minutes.
You don't have a time limit. You're fine.
we're trying to get this first project and the loan approved within the next 3 to 4 months. And then once it's approved, they would like the projects very far along and even under construction within a year from that time. Is that right, Jim?
Right, and that's the idea, is that about 3 months to get this first project taken to DEQ for approval, and then to the water board for approval of the entire bond. But at the same time, we can do a little bit of work concurrently on the 30-inch line. The 30-inch line, we keep on talking about the 30-inch line, but we have a lot of work still to do in these areas and sectors here, and so that's going to take a lot of time also. So we're looking at 10 months on the design for that entire project for Project B.
Do we use a lot of city resources to dig and put in these lines, or do we sub a lot of this project out?
It'll be subbed out.
It'll be bid to contract.
Okay.
It's actually, you can do some work, force account work with these type of government loans, but it's very difficult in order, the timing and everything else is very difficult to do it any other way, but contract it out.
I was curious.
So we got time frame from that time to bid to spec, now from construction phase.
I'm hoping that January of next year would be about the time that we'd be bidding this project, the larger project. The smaller project would be much earlier, sometime in around May or possibly early June.
Construction phase, 2 years.
On the first project, it's very quick. The second project, because of the amount of work, I would say 2 years is probably about right.
Okay.
We'll want to do the first project, that 30-inch line first. And at that point, we would work from the center of town back towards the water plant.
Quick question.
I'm sorry.
We're going to have a lot of backyards and front yards that we're going to go through, or
We're hoping not to. We'd like to use existing statutory right-of-way or easements, but that's something that we have to look at, and that's one of the biggest parts of this project is just doing that due diligence to determine the exact right path. We have ideas of where we're going to be going on this east side of town, but they're not concrete yet until we do all the utility locates and determine all the easements and acquisitions necessary.
okay, because when we did the flood water, where we put all the drainage and everything is over here on the east side of town, I think I visited almost everybody's house that where we went behind it and dug. They wanted something fixed about their fence, their yard, their sprinkler system, something. I know for future city councilmen that may have to deal with this, that just
Get ready.
get ready.
And that's something we've seen in a lot of, especially not with storm sewer, but it's always been sewer in the backyard and water in the front.
Yeah.
And everybody has beautiful flower beds and beautiful fences and everything else. Doesn't always seem that beautiful until you start negotiating. But that's so difficult to get that, to do those the work in the backyard. We're trying to do all this either where water lines are normally at in the front yard.
It'll be a fun process. We need it, and I wish people just understood that there's going to be some messed up front yards and stuff, and we'll put them back the best we can, but here it comes. It'll be worth it, but it'll be fun.
But if I'm understanding this correctly, if you're following along that bike trail, we already have a lot of the easements are all along that bike trail.
That was a
Correct.
coup. That was quite a coup. I mean, we were trying to find a way to get from point A to point B, and we were just scouring the area, and then all of a sudden, when we noticed where the railroad was right here, you'd already done it already. So once we saw those two things, it was just a pretty natural fit. So we just really had to use that bike trail. I'm a cyclist, so I'm always looking for a new bike trail. So
There you go.
I found one.
Perfect. Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes?
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Item number 4 passed, and with that, that was our final item for the Finance Committee.
We will now call to order the Public Works Committee meeting. Item number 1, Tim.
Consider approval of Public Works Committee minutes of February the 20th, 2018.
Any additions or changes?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes?
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 2.
Consider approval of ordinance number 4042A, amending the Muskogee Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, Municipal Government Organization, Section 2-29, titled Council Participation Guidelines and Rules of Decorum, modifying meeting schedule, providing for repeal or severability, and setting an effective date, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is a housekeeping matter. You all would remember a couple months ago, we changed our meeting times from 7 p.m. to 5:30, and then Public Works from 4 o'clock to 5:30, always on Mondays. In going through some of our other policies, we correctly amended our city code that set the meetings, but we neglected to incorporate that change into Council Policy 1-1, which is the second item. This ordinance is attached as Exhibit A to Council Policy 1-2, so that's why we're taking them both together. This particular ordinance didn't speak at all to the timing of the meetings, but since we were going to amend Policy 1-2, we thought we'd correct some things that needed correcting. For example, in the section related to public hearings and agenda comments, there was apparently a typo in the ordinance that limited public comment to 2 minutes public hearings and agenda items to 2 minutes rather than 5 minutes as our practice has been. So we made that correction. Additionally, we referenced a cutoff time of when you've got to sign up to speak. Prior to that, the cutoff time, which was 15 minutes before the meeting, was only referenced in the form that the council had approved. So it wasn't anywhere in the ordinance. So if somebody were trying to determine what the rules were and were looking online, they wouldn't have found it, and they wouldn't know it until they came up to fill out the form. So we thought it prudent to include that within the ordinance itself, so it'd be easier to find. And there were a couple of other grammatical issues that we corrected. But the crux of the ordinance with the rules of decorum have not changed. And so with that, I recommend approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
If we vote this down, can we go back to our old times?
If you vote this down, it'll be 2 minutes because that's what's currently in place.
No, I mean that Mondays, Tuesdays.
Oh, no, because that's in 1-2, not this one. I know what you're saying.
I'm trying to give Mr. Coleman, Mr. Johnson a hard time.
If we vote no on this, do you got to represent this again Monday?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll have to represent it anyway because it's an ordinance.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 3.
Consider approval of amended Council Policy 1-2 or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, as I referenced in our earlier item, this is Council Policy 1-1, which did require a change to correct the times of the meetings as per Ordinance -2 or City Code 2-20. So this policy we have updated to incorporate that time, reflecting all the meetings occurring at 5:30 on Mondays. Additionally, within this provision, we have restated the 15-minute cutoff time prior to signing up to speak. But other than that, no changes have been made. Happy to answer any questions, but I recommend approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 4.
Consider approval of a preliminary and final plat of Sooner Edition consisting of 2 lots on 2.83 acres located on the north side of Harris Road, east of Country Club Road, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the applicant Randy and Cindy Garut is requesting approval of a preliminary and final plat for Sooner Edition consisting of 2 lots on 2.83 acres. Property is located on the north side of Harris Road, just east of Country Club Road. The reason for platting the property is to have it developed residentially. He is proposing to build 2 new single-family dwellings on the property. This item has been reviewed and recommended for approval by staff, subdivision, and planning commission. Be glad to answer any questions.
I've got a curious question.
Yes.
And it's just a curious question. When we change the 24-inch water lines, will these lines under the drive be abandoned? Under the cul-de-sac?
This is on Harris. I don't know if this will affect that 24.
Yeah, it's on the northeast side of town, yeah.
It's-
They won't be abandoned, they'll be filled or replaced.
Well, they'll be abandoned as a working water line. Okay. Thank you. Just curious.
Any other questions?
Move for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes?
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
The motion carries. Item number 5.
Consider approval of the appointment of Justin Blake O'Neill to serve a 3-year term on the Historic Preservation Commission beginning March 1, 2018 and ending February the 28th, 2021, replacing Doug Buse or take other necessary action.
Well, I see the mayor's name on this one, but I know Justin. I think he'd be very good at the historic preservation. You have to have certain backgrounds. Have to have some history and some other things. So I'm sure he meets those qualifications at the end of the day. But I do know who this is, and I think he'll be a good addition to it.
Move for approval.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes?
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 6.
Consider approval of the appointment of Stacy Alexander to serve a 4-year term on the Parks and Recreation Board beginning April 1, 2018 and ending March 31, 2022, replacing Edwina Walker or take other necessary action.
Mr. Kale.
I think this will be a good fit for the city and for Mrs. Alexander. She's a big bike rider herself, enjoys the parks. She'll be a benefit to the Parks Board, and she's a big Oklahoma State supporter, as is Mark Wilkerson, so they should get along just fine. And I recommend approval.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Discussion. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes?
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Feeling honored tonight, aren't we?
I was
Item number
almost gonna
7.
say no, just for the principle.
All right, sure.
He's doing that for the cameras.
Item number 7, Tammy.
Consider approval of the appointment of Jamie Stout to serve on the War Memorial Trust Authority, commensurate with her term on the City Council, replacing Councilor James Scully, or take other necessary action.
Well, Ms. Boydston's not here, but I think with Jamie being here, I think this will be a good addition. Again, it's a committee that meets at 9 o'clock in the morning, so it's a lot of it's which is a council appointee, if I'm not mistaken. It has to be a council representative. So if she's got the time to be there at 9 o'clock once a month, I think this is a good fit for us.
And those are first Wednesday,
Third.
third Wednesday every month?
Yep.
Okay. Fantastic.
Second.
I guess you took that as a motion? So moved. Got a
take
motion
it.
and a second.
We'll take anything anymore.
I guarantee. A motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully?
Yes.
Patrick Kale?
Yes.
Marlon Coleman?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Motion carries. Seeing that no citizens signed up to speak to this committee, we are adjourned.
Thank you.